Focus now on the trends in the African fast food industry. Yum is one of the world's largest restaurant companies in terms of system restaurants, with more than 36,000 locations around the world. The company is ranked 239 on the Fortune 500 list, with revenues in excess of $11 billion in 2008. The good news is that Yum opened the first KFC restaurant in Nigeria recently. For the details, we're joined from Lagos by Keith Warren, Managing Director of Yum Restaurants International in South Africa. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. Firstly, take us through what the trends have been thus far in the fast food industry in Africa.
Oh, Fanny, really great to be with you. But yeah, the trends are very, very positive. The trends are showing that the Nigerian consumers, as well as the African consumers, are moving into fast food.
How different is the trend from last year in terms of the global downturn? Did it take a terrible dip last year at all?
Things slowed ever so slightly, but I wouldn't say that they took a dip. The African continent, as we know, is enjoying fantastic growth, and the fast food industry is becoming is leveraging off that. As African consumers are becoming wealthier and are improving their standards of living, one of the things that they are turning to is the convenience that fast food does offer.
How has Nigeria taken to the fast food industry?
Well, Nigeria's had a number of smaller operators operating within the local market for a number of years. The difference is that we are the first large international US brand that has ventured into Nigeria. And the results have been phenomenal. We actually have been staggered by the level of interest, the level of success that we have enjoyed in the opening of our first 2 stores. I've had the privilege of traveling around Lagos the last couple of days, and I have spent time in them and talking to the customers and talking to the staff. The reception is just fantastic.
And what would you say is the scope of investment in terms of the fast food industry in Africa currently looks like?
It's absolutely enormous. The Nigerian business ultimately will be, in my opinion, probably 2,000 restaurants. We have 630 restaurants in South Africa, up from 400 5 years ago. The potential is phenomenal, and we're just scratching the surface. Our plans are that in the next year or so, we're going to open up in Angola, in Zambia, in Ghana, in Tanzania, in Kenya. We're even looking at Zimbabwe. The potential is just fantastic. There's a massive amount of interest in what KFC has to offer.
Well, in terms of revenue generated for 2008, it was at $11 billion. How different do you think it's going to be in 2010?
We're very comfortable that we're going to meet our earnings guidance. Our revenue growth around the world is challenged in certain areas, but at a broad brush level, we are comfortable that we are going to meet the commitments that we've made to the street.
You've just mentioned, what are some of the challenges in terms of starting up a fast food industry or a business in Africa right now?
Typically, the number one challenge is actually supply chain. Being a global brand, we have very high standards for our products and our offerings. And to ensure that we actually can get the inputs of a suitable standard, it does require a fair amount of effort. So in Nigeria particularly, one of our greatest challenges has actually been securing a quality supplier for chicken, and we're very comfortable and very pleased that we're partnering with Obasanjo Chickens, and they are meeting our requirements. So it does take a fair amount of work and a large amount of energy to just set up the supply chain that is necessary.
Well, Africa has concerns with food security currently. So how exactly is the fast food industry making inroads into Africa when there are concerns of food security?
Food security doesn't really impact us directly. We're quite far up the chain if we're talking about the needs of the base level food security. So it's not something that is impacting us at this stage, other than the fact that if there is a shortage of supply of certain items, naturally the cost goes up, and that does impact us financially.
Well, earlier you mentioned that you're going to open fast food chain stores in Zimbabwe. How do you think the market will take to it there?
We're very optimistic about Zimbabwe. They are still a number of chains, mainly South African chains, that operate in Zimbabwe, that have continued to operate with during the challenges that Zimbabwe has been facing. Now that things are beginning to show positive signs of turning around, we are confident that we can take KFC to Zimbabwe. We actually did exist in Zimbabwe up until 2001, but through the economic challenges and the ability to repatriate funds, we had to suspend operations.